what came back into our lives last night at approximately 6:37.12 Prime Meridian at night?
I don't know. I don't know what happened.
We were at a party. You don't know what happened last night. Albie.
I don't know what came back into our lives. Oh, I know what came back into our lives. I know what you're talking about.
This is featured on somehow. This is featured on the Shattuck show today as well. We were talking to a new friend of ours.
Going 35 miles per hour.
Oh, I didn't even try to play this. I'm literally on Adobe Audition and it's playing.
What's wrong with you?
20 miles because of animals like you.
Animals?
Fucker,
Why are you calling me a motherfucker?
you're a criminal.
I am?
He is back in our lives somehow. We're 1 degree of separation now
Yeah,
since we've met our new friends.
right. We made new friends yesterday at a gathering.
Yes.
And they're big conservatives, actually.
Big conservatives.
But
But big also conservationists. They like most of us in this town. If you moved here, then you're into
like the outdoors.
outdoors. Animals. And so they're into animals too. Some animals, some not. But we all like the turtles here, and so they just happened to mention that they got this friend who's really outspoken and a good protector of all things nature, and they said, "Oh, you should meet our friend Lionel." I thought, wow. I've met Lionel, as a matter of fact. I've met him but isn't that interesting? That anyway, do listen to the Shattuck show, because I try to make sense of why like we and Lionel are on the same side on some things. And
Right.
it makes for a weird coalition, certainly. Because, he called me an animal, Alice. Well, which is odd because he likes animals.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
figure that he wouldn't denigrate them by...
But our new friend was telling us he likes goats and is smoking weed in his yard all the time.
I didn't get a lot of weed smoker vibe from him.
Mostly weed smokers aren't that angry.
Yeah. Mostly they're not that angry. And I am big, fat, and slow, but I do believe had it come to blows, I don't know if Lionel would have the upper hand. Maybe he would. He's certainly angry. But here's the other thing, Lionel. If you're going to say it's time for us to fight, then you need to leave your car. I'll tell you, man, the camera ices people. The phone, he said, "You're videotaping me." At somebody says, "This is 3 years old." So
Yeah, it's not new news. Do we know what episode it is? Did you go back and find what episode, in case people want to look for the episode by name in our stuff? I can see if I can find it.
yeah, well, it's exactly 3 years ago, so wherever that is. Anyway, so we're getting closer to being
Friends with him.
friends with Lionel.
Wouldn't that be
After
great?
all this time. After all this time. Talk about a guy who provided content. Holy hell.
No one provides content like Lionel.
The other thing is like when you're going like attacking somebody, and really like he was driving on my bumper, like he was like almost essentially attacking me with his car, and it's funny that the first reactions you have when it happens is like it's not for me, I assume. It's like anyway, he is our friend again. All is good. No complaints. I want to talk about, Allison, something that okay, no, we'll start here. Here. But I do want to get something. I actually fell for a meme, and it just got me thinking about something. But we're going to start from here, and I want your reaction to this.
Okay.
We've been collecting in revenues. And I did this in part because Wilfred's here and he can talk about the UK trade deal. But just this is the monthly numbers and they have gone up a lot.
This is 30 years of U.S. tariff revenue.
June is actually set for another big increase of $27 billion. That is money coming into U.S. coffers from tariffs. We are collecting a lot of revenue. So far, guys, $121 billion has flowed into the U.S. government since the start of the fiscal year. It's still a tiny portion of the overall revenues that the U.S. government gets, but it's increasingly a lot. Especially, we haven't seen it in terms of the consumer paying off higher inflation. Look how much.
So this is CNBC.
And they're all so disappointed that that inflation hasn't been higher. Inflation keeps not being higher.
Well, exactly.
They can't. It's very upsetting to them. They were so excited when we were going to be at war with Iran and they could blame Trump for World War III and the gas prices were going to be higher. Hope you enjoy your $6 gas prices, MAGA.
Yes.
Now that we're in World War III with Iran. Like, sorry, none of that materialized. Like, do you ever get sick of being sensationalist and then nothing happens?
Right. And that's such a great way to point it, too. It's like, it's increasingly a lot. Huh. Have you guys noticed something? That, like, increasingly the Iranians now are 1/50th of the country they used to be on the global stage as far as terrorism go. Mm-hmm. It's increasingly the illegal immigration has been whittled down a lot.
Mm-hmm. It's increasingly we're collecting money from terror. Increasingly, inflation hasn't been showing up. It's they can't, like, obviously they're not going to, like, give Trump credit, but it's crazy because I think that this Iran stuff has continued to have and will continue to have a lot more good ripple effects. For one thing, this weakens China and Russia on the world stage because they're supposed to be friends with Iran.
Yeah.
And they let this happen to them and, like, didn't really do anything back that we've seen so far. So there's that shows their client states that, like, their promises aren't good. They're not going to be there to back you up if things really hit the fan. You know, if the United States really comes for your nuclear program, China's not going to help you out. Like, that's that.
And I think one of the, go ahead.
And I've also been seeing stuff I didn't see if this was, like, true or reaching completion, but I heard that, like, there's good stuff happening with you know, between, like, Syria and Israel, and that they could reach some kind of thing.
Oh,
about,
yeah,
like,
they are.
Golan Heights and that stuff. Like, this is
that war in Africa.
That ended now that Trump ended. Did we play the Scott Jennings thing yesterday?
I don't know.
I forget if we did, but yeah, he embarrassed another person on CNN who didn't know that Trump had created a peace deal when she was on TV talking about it. And, like, just on the world stage, it helps us so much to have that kind of credibility that we're going to do what we say we're going to do, that our red lines cannot be crossed, and we mean what we say, and that, you know, China and Russia don't. And that has so many positive ripple effects that we're only just beginning to see the results of. People tried him and they found out, yes, he's still the same president who did the Soleimani stuff, and you can't mess with him because he will do things.
Well, he will do things, and not only will he do things, but he will recalibrate a policy position from over here to way the hell over here, which could mean invisible bombers coming to your country overnight.
Right.
Without you having any idea.
Without getting one shot off at them the entire time they're over your airspace.
The Iranians were preparing for negotiations and how they were going to outfox the team Trump while the bombers were in the town.
Right. And so that's all great. Of course, the media is not going to give Trump credit. But one thing that I thought was fascinating is all this stuff we've been talking about, the big, beautiful bill. And the Democrats have been really trying to tell us all that it's, like, incredibly unpopular, the big, beautiful bill.
Yep.
And that's more or less true. When they ask people who have heard of it, you know, is it good or is it bad, Trump's big, beautiful bill? And mostly they're phrasing the question that way. People say they don't like it. What's interesting is that a new poll that actually published the numbers of people who hadn't heard anything about the big beautiful bill showed that half of Americans have not heard one word about it. Which, of course, means that these polls that they're getting of people who hate the big beautiful bill are all biased towards these hysterical Democrats, like people we know, resistant old boomer libs who can't turn off the TV and they're glued to MSNBC about the end of democracy, and they have decided to freak out. So they're the ones who have heard of the big beautiful bill. Nobody else is paying attention. And get this, when they asked people what policies were in the big beautiful bill, only 8% of people mentioned the Medicaid cuts.
Right.
So they're not breaking through with
they
this
know
stuff.
They're supposed to hate
this
him.
Messaging, but this messaging about the Medicaid cuts that the Democrats have been trying so hard to make happen is just not breaking through into the mainstream beyond the perpetually freaked out people.
Yeah, and increasingly, they're so having to split hairs that they've gone beyond the knowledge base of what most people know now, because they're losing on every issue. So, like, we saw a couple posts today on social media saying they've literally ended birthright citizenship.
Right.
They've we're getting your name if you're not. I'm angry about it. People don't have time in the day to go look what entails birthright citizenship.
Right.
And what exactly is happening. Like, people don't have time in the day to look at line items and bills. A bill, by the way, which we don't like.
Well, don't like parts of it.
Right, don't like parts of it. No doubt about that.
They need to pass at least the Trump tax cuts.
Right, and I think
some of
that'll
these other
happen.
things.
But you're right, and that's why. Let me start with. Let me play the thing that you talked about, because with the Scott Jennings thing, which is, everybody's played it by now, but it's still good. And it's about the war, the Congo-Rwanda war, that Trump has brokered a peace treaty with. He's ended this war. But you're right. The person on the CNN panel either didn't know or found that truth to be so inconvenient that she challenged the premise.
Jobs not done. A foreign minister from Rwanda told CNN, he said he's committed to supporting this ongoing negotiation, but warned that ending the conflict will depend on political will and the good faith. And he doesn't know if that is true, referring to the DRC's government. It's not done. It's not done.
You didn't watch the news yesterday. They literally announced it in the Oval Office.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This is indeed a historical day. Because it's the signing of a peace agreement between Congo and Rwanda to end a conflict that has been going on for 30 years.
Let me ask you a question.
Literally in the Oval
Office. Can I say something?
Friday afternoon.
You said something.
So anyway, she goes on to say, do you think he ever realized? It's not the point. The point is that now they're so bad on the issues, and he's doing so well on issues, that they're having to create third-party fake issues that don't matter, or avenues of argument. For instance, here's Chris Murphy talking about the border Sunday. This is great. This is when the runway is getting short on the reasons for you to be on TV anymore.
You know, border crossings are at a record low. Do you give the Trump administration some credit for that? And are you, when you look at those figures, do you think things are moving in the right direction, at least in that regard, Senator?
No, I don't give them credit for that, because border crossings are low because they're violating the law every day.
The American people asked in this election to not have a bunch of illegal immigration.
That's right. And as a matter of fact, the laws were on the books, and the last guy didn't execute any of the laws for 3 years.
Right.
They're violating the law every day. They're walking into the ICE. They don't know. Border crossings aren't good because ICE now is wearing face masks because they're hiding. As we just played, you guys probably didn't hear. I don't think I've sent it to us, but the guy says one of the fake lawyers said they're wearing masks because they're ashamed of what they're doing. They know it's bad. It's like, everybody's doing their job. You're a bunch of bitches.
It's amazing. And it's so funny. I saw this thing today. Hopefully I sent it to us. Let me look. But what I think it was Frank Luntz who's gone insane. He's one of these people who's just like lost his mind. Was tweeting about like how important it is that we have immigrants in America.
Right.
And how much they bring to America, and how many Fortune 500 companies were founded by immigrants or children of immigrants, including like Google, Amazon, and all the. Now, and children of immigrants is doing like a lot of work.
Yes.
In that.
The neck tattoo crowd has not funded so many tech monoliths, I don't think.
Right. And to like include Jeff Bezos, who his father, who adopted him when he married his single mom after he was already born, as a children of immigrants, is like, while I suppose technically true, because adoptive fathers are fathers, is like a weird way to advocate for immigration.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's a lot of like,
oh, this was Obama was doing this. Remember this? Like
Yeah.
15 years ago, he was talking about Nikola Tesla.
Yeah, of course. As though all the Haitian people eating cats are going to be inventing things. It's a little bit rich. And like, yes, we should be bringing the best and brightest of immigrants here into the United States, obviously. But yeah, this was his data. He said immigrants and their children have founded nearly half of today's Fortune 500 companies, including Apple, Google, Amazon, and Costco. America has always benefited from the contributions of immigrants. But once again, like, children of immigrants is doing a lot of the work, and it's not exactly like third worlders. It's like people who are children of like mathematics professors who emigrated here and stuff. It's
right.
Like, it's the silliest freaking comparison. And this disingenuous use of statistics when everybody can see what's going on. This is why they can't get things across to the American people, because people can like go out in the world and see what's true and what's not true. And I guarantee we're going to start. I don't think the polls are really reflecting the mood shift yet, but we're going to see the Trump approval ratings start to reflect this shift, because it's too much of a shift. But they're so friggin' like delusional and crazy. I know I sent us one this morning that I was looking for, but they're so delusional and crazy. They can't give him any credit. Did you see this one of him talking on Fox News about how people respect our country again? I'm going to send it to you. Wait, I'm going to send this to you.
Okay.
This clip of Trump that I saw some lib reposted, and I'll tell you what they said about it, but play it first.
And, you know, I was in that beautiful place with the king and the queen, and it was like beautiful. Everything's so nice. But when I went to the Netherlands and I looked, everybody was coming up, Mr. President, Mr. President. They didn't do that a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago. These are the big countries. This is Germany and France and all of them. I mean, a big group of countries. They respect America again. They laughed at us. They thought we were a joke. You had a president that kept falling downstairs and falling on stages and couldn't find an entrance. And, you know, I was in that beautiful place.
So there you go.
So, yeah, you know, this liberal person posted and says he's delusionally insane. He lives in a fantasy world where he just completely makes up crazy nonsense all day, and we're just numb to it. And somebody goes, they know to placate the narcissist, shower him with attention and compliments. But when it came to them as a serious group, they ignored him. In Trump's fairy tale hall, in the windmills curtsy, and every stroopwafel cries, sir. His passport's basically a coloring book. The queen is making fun of him behind his back to the entire world. Dementia. No matter how long he lives there, I'll never be. They're just like, they can't believe it.
Yes.
That the world is treating him like a normal person. They have to make up some other like, they're the ones who are delusional. He's delusional. They truly can't stand you. MAGA's gonna believe this. Like, they really think that everyone hates him and that things aren't going well. And watch, because as his poll numbers level off, because if we continue not to be in World War III, and if inflation continues not to spike up, and if the stock market continues to go up, and if, you know, NATO keeps agreeing to contribute 5% of their budgets to their shared defense, and if like world leaders continue treating him respectfully, like the border keeps being closed, people are just going to start living their lives and like being happy and thinking, hey, Trump must be doing a pretty good job. Not that they're going to pay attention to all the little ins and outs and stuff, but they're going to start to feel like, okay, maybe the world is like normal and okay and everything's fine. And the poll numbers are going to start to reflect that. And these people are going to start to get more and more hysterical and more like, you believe these poll numbers? Like, they're going to freak out because they can't, this doesn't comport with their reality.
Well, and that would be a great thing to chase them back into the psycho shadows where they lived 20 years ago, where they were just a couple of the few voices. So I sent us here's one of these people I'm talking about. I sent a Facebook post of your friend. Did you see it at all?
Yeah, I did see that.
Do you mind reading it and describing who she is first and reading it? I don't want to get anything wrong. It's a friend, Alice's old friend. Grew up in a very nice town like Alice.
I'm gonna say the guy's name wrong. He's the actor from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Rob McElhenney. Whatever.
Which is, by the way, about us not knowing that name, I'm going to say to you right now, Alice, that is one of the few shows, and I've never seen it, that I think I may dip my toe into. Just saying that.
I went through a phase where I watched some of it.
Was I around?
It's okay. I don't know if you like it.
Oh, really?
Sometimes it's kind of like gross for you. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Maybe not. Like people do like it. It has its charms, certainly. But anyway, she writes, speaking to Variety last month, this friend of mine that I grew up with, she's like into every woke thing, and like fully believes all of them. She said, this is so cringe to me. Speaking to Variety last month, McElhenney explained she's
reading now an excerpt from...
Yeah, he long story short, he's changing his name, his stage name or whatever, to Rob Mac, because he thinks McElhenney is like too hard to pronounce or confusing to people. He said he had been concerned that altering his name would be disrespectful to his ancestry. However, he discovered some of his relatives had already altered the spelling of their surnames across the generations to make it easier to spell or pronounce. So she writes, honey, maybe you should be more worried about how disrespectful it is to non-native English speakers around the world to casually assume that just because you can't be bothered to learn how to correctly pronounce their names, that they won't be more than capable of correctly pronouncing yours.
Right. And that's what I mean by need to go back into the shadows. Because these people are scolds, miserable.
Well, like, how do you read that story and twist it into that? He's insulting third world people. I'm a friggin' white first world person. I don't know how to pronounce his stupid name. It has nothing to do with he's
Imagine
racist.
Being those people and having all those rules. And always these rules pop up every 4 seconds and there's new ones and you're gone afoul of a new one. And honey, if you're gonna be looking for reasons to be mad at of this case, of course, the European white man. Like, what a miserable bunch of freaks they are. And they used to be just made fun of. And, just castigated and cast out of, polite places. And they should be. They're freaking freaks and miserable. And they create this thing and they cultivate people being miserable scolds. Just based on nothing. And they're ugly and they're disgusting. They look it, they sound like it, they talk it, they celebrate it. They do like this person is an ugly person. I remember this person, by the way, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Back before the person was trans, whatever it is now, had a boyfriend.
She's not trans.
And whatever. And was bragging about how they were elite because she went to a very fine university and he was going to be an engineer or something. And like they couldn't help themselves. So they're craven in any different way. They'll take on any shape shift into anything depending on what the culture has. But they're ugly, souled people. They don't think they are. And they're rescuing cats and dogs that they see all over the place. But they're ugly. These people are just horrific, and that's what that like. And I think that people and people want. And by the way, this month, couldn't there be like okay, you've shown us now that you can have horrifically ugly 47-year-old obese men dressed as slutty women grab kids from the audience and have them learn to work a stripper pole. That's not what you do. That's what your side does for fun and recreation. That's your thing. That's tolerance, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think America's had enough of this crap. Just a freaking enough of this crap. And you're freaks and you're losers.
Well, so I think it's interesting that you bring this up because there has been a fascinating debate over the last few days about the Dispatch and this this guy, formerly, I guess, Brian Rydell, Jessica Rydell from the Manhattan Institute, who's a federal budget expert analyst that they're bringing into the Dispatch, and he decided to leave his wife and kids and become Jessica Rydell, and
I don't know the story at all, by the way.
So he's from the Manhattan Institute, and he's joining the Dispatch. And so it kind of came up because David French, who previously, when he was doing the conservative Christian bit that he used to do, was saying, I'm never going to refer to a transgender woman as he. I'll use somebody's name if they change their name, but I just can't affirm the lie that you're not the sex that God created you. But he, of course, now that Jessica Rydell is joining the Dispatch, tweeted out that she's such a great budget analyst and all this stuff, and he's such a pleasure to be working with her now at the whole blah, 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 blah. Which, okay. I mean, I think there's a few things going on here. So obviously everybody was calling out David French for this, and everybody was essentially saying, good luck, Dispatch. Good luck claiming the mantle of original conservatism and trying to say Donald Trump is changing conservatism when clearly you are not what conservatives were 20 years ago either.
Right.
And all these conservative groups have been caught a little between libertarianism, sort of do what you want, it's none of my business conservatism, and the more traditional Christian conservative. I mean, this has been a battle within the Republican Party for a very long time. And I think what sort of came out with this is there was a lot of discussion of this, and Jessica Rydell eventually posted, Jessica Rydell, who has a Ukraine flag in bio, of course. So, says, I hate having to address transgender issues, but the bad faith ignorance is astounding. My feed has been filled with conservatives attacking transgenderism as a mental illness with no legit biological basis, which is medically demonstrably false. Goes into all this stuff about how there's medical studies that show transgender people have a different brain and blah, blah, blah. And it's definitely proven biology and all this stuff. And here's the problem is I think most conservatives are with you when you say, I want to wear certain clothes. I want to be called a certain name. It's nobody's business but mine. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when you show up at my job, I'll call you that name and we'll just go along to get along because it's not really my business what clothes you wear. Right. And I think most conservatives think that that's true. But I think that once you go, when you're a conservative opinion person, and if you go online and spout this stuff that is demonstrably false, this gender ideology stuff, saying there's studies that prove there's such a thing as a transgender brain, which there is no such thing as. All of those studies are confounded by same-sex attraction. What they've found is that transgender people do have certain pathways in their brain that look different on average slightly than cis people, but that when you control for gay people also have those differences in the brain.
Right, okay.
So a gay guy and a quote transgender woman have those same feminine brain qualities, right? That are maybe more like a woman's brain than a man's brain slightly in certain ways. So all of those studies are confounded by that. And what's more the point is the transgender movement wants nothing to do with biological tests. If there was a test that you could take, there was a blood test that was, are you a real trans person? They don't want that because they want pure self-ID. They want, if I say I'm a woman, period, the end. Right? That's what they want. And so all of this stuff is ideological. And you have to question the judgment in all kinds of areas of someone who can't critically evaluate this issue. Somebody who,
well,
you know,
I mean,
compared to somebody who says, if you're somebody who says, look, I get it, I have a brain thing, I feel the need to wear these clothes. Like, I think maybe you're crazy, but I like don't. But if you say like, no, there's studies that prove I'm actually a woman.
Right.
Now I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
now you're a nut job, and I don't really trust your analysis of anything, including the federal budget. To be totally honest with you.
Huh, that's interesting.
You know, like, because that's a big judgment issue. If you feel the need to twist all the scientific evidence,
well, what's the issue? What's the issue? Doing the thing or making it public that you're doing the thing?
I don't think it's doing the thing. I mean, I think that it's believing in the ideology. So if you go out and publicly make it clear that you believe this ideology, that you know, there are people born into the wrong bodies, and that you're just as much a woman as a, quote, cis woman or whatever it is. If you believe that there's like some scientific basis for that, and you insist on twisting scientific studies, if you look at the scientific studies that he's putting in here, this is an extremely ideological list of articles, including many that are like very debunked. This is a person who has put their intellectual abilities in service to an ideological end to make themselves happy, including like leaving their wife and kids over it. Right. And that's like, that's a tough sell to me, to like listen to your like judgment when you talk to me about, oh, I'm now going to evaluate this social sciences study. You believe. It would be like if somebody came to me and was like, this person's a great budget analyst, they just happen to believe the earth is flat.
Right.
Like, I'd be like, well, okay, but I am going to like probably think of them a bit differently now.
Right.
Including their budget and that. Even if they're the best budget analyst there is, like, if you legitimately think that like planet Earth is flat in physical terms, then I'm gonna like doubt your other critical analysis of things.
Well, let me ask you this then. And but by the way, I do think it's fine for French to call him she in this, and he's showing some grace, and you're making accommodations, and maybe this person's not an a-hole. Okay.
Yeah, maybe they're not an a-hole.
Right.
But they believe something that's crazy.
Okay. Yes, I agree with that. But
he believes he was born with a woman's brain and like all this fake stuff. And Splash in the chat says, yes, the trans drag queen I saw yesterday, I trust to lip sync and dance to Lady Gaga, but not to write policy that actually affects everybody else's lives. And here's the thing, is that like, yeah, there's trans people that I like and that don't particularly like bother me in my day-to-day existence, but like, do I think they're totally all there and all right? Not really. Like,
not to get to left field, but the drag queens tend to be trans.
Some of them.
When I went to what's that place, that bar in the Bay Village, Jacques, and saw our PBX operator George win Miss Gay Massachusetts. He was a gay guy who just dressed in drag.
Yeah, like I say, there's a lot of blurring there, but yeah, some of them are trans and some aren't. But
I also think that,
I mean, that's okay. There's lots of people out there that are crazy in lots of ways. We are friends with lots of people who are crazy in a bunch of different and interesting and sometimes fun ways. But like, I don't always like want to put them on the Dispatch podcast and treat them like a serious person because they're crazy. But like, I like them and they're fine, and it's like, okay, but do you know what I'm saying?
Well, do you think it's possible to compartmentalize your craziness? Like that woman who earlier was looking at all the tariff revenue and was saying it's like increasingly a lot. She's also a little crazy, at least, and we only know that from her analysis. But maybe Rydell's insanity in analysis is absolutely clean and pure. just saying we don't know.
We don't know. But it's like a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow, I think, that, and take like Admiral Levine. Do you think Admiral Levine's craziness can be compartmentalized? No.
It's actually, it spreads into policy directly.
Yeah, and it was shown in Discovery for this court case that directly it was. But I don't know. Is it possible? But by all accounts, Admiral Levine is...
Admiral
Levine. I mean, like, presumably, like, went through life, like, getting good grades and, like, getting jobs and, like, doing normal stuff that people do in other areas of his life other than this one area where he seems to be an insane person. But, like, so I don't know how much you can compartmentalize that. If you're that far off reality where you think you're a chick, then, then it... I assume to some degree it's compartmentalized, but like how much does it bleed into other things? Because obviously there's a screw loose.
Well,
somewhere, right?
What we've done is that we've coaxed these kinks out of people into the public square.
Right.
And said that's fine now, but some kinks we probably should never know about.
Well, right. I mean, so how about this one? Like, how about if somebody's a furry? And one of my sisters who works at a big tech company has had people at her work be like on Zoom meetings in their furry outfits. Like, okay.
Well, that's also...
Can it be compartmentalized? That crazy? Can it be? Maybe they're really good at their job. Maybe they're great at their job. Like, why
I mean, that to me would show such a... would expose so many negative personality traits that you couldn't be trusted on projects at all.
But like
at all, or like God forbid somebody miss your birthday in the office. Like nobody, you're that self-centered and selfish. You get to dress like a purple baboon, then you're an a-hole first and foremost. All right, we got to do the chat because you got to get going, right?
Yeah, that's true. We got to, but I don't know. It's an interesting conversation now that we're letting everybody in America let their freak flag completely fly. Like, to what? And I guess it gets the Glenn Greenwald thing too. Like, does it affect your judgment of him? Like a little bit. If you're in the maid outfit doing foot stuff, like it does affect my opinion of you. And I think it bleeds into other things.
Do you guys remember when John McCain was running for president and the liberals were claiming he was ineligible because he was born on a U.S. naval base?
Yep.
And they questioned his birthright citizenship. And ellipses, wait for it, ellipses, they were trying to get him ousted based on that.
I do.
Can you imagine that? Full stop.
Oh, by the way, our TikTok is doing great numbies on that Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Wow, now you're our full-time social media manager.
Here we go.
Hey, guys. Hey,
Phil.
Tom, I just wanted to let you know two things. Number one, I'm really enjoying Shot of Shattuck.
Thank you.
And I think why I enjoy it is because, first of all, you're quite pithy and very entertaining.
Thank you, Phil.
But the best thing is that you're not being stepped on by a step-on wife.
Here. Wow, Alice, we're going to have a face-off in a couple of weeks.
However, Tom, you could be just as guilty as Alice for stepping on her lines.
Incorrect.
So,
Phil, I have important stuff to say. She's the, what's that called? The dial tone. I'm numbers being dialed.
You know, you're not off the hook entirely, but the fact that you have free reign and there's no interruptions and you make your point and give great examples.
Thank you, Phil.
It's very amusing. I really enjoy it quite a bit.
Thank you.
Secondly, and lastly, we are filling up nicely for the Burn Barrel Summer Bash in 3 weeks. And we still got room for another, 8 or 9 adults. And plenty of room for any kids. So don't worry about bringing kids. If they want to come, there's plenty of room. And
maybe, do I bring Lionel?
I think we should invite him for sure.
Using GPS, you should be able to find us, even though we've gone back to our Native American land's name. They've changed the name of our street.
Is that true?
So it's now, because it used to be Wampanoag land, it's now called Succon, Massasoit, Succotash Lane.
Oh,
so
wow.
just be aware of that if when you're coming that you put on your GPS, it could be that. Anyway, thanks a lot. Sorry I went over the 1 minute mark.
Barely.
See you guys.
By the way, effusive praise to me does not count against your time. Just so you know.
The clock stops for that.
That's correct.
Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Get your responses in for that party if you want to come. burnbarrelpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to join us in the chat and stuff like that every week, all week, you can do that at patreon.com/burnbarrel. You can get some extra content there too. And listen ad-free all the time to all 3 shows, which is an awesome value. If you like listening for free, it's just burnbarrelpodcast@gmail.com.
Love your dog.